Hi, welcome back. This is the last of our talks with the contributors to Whispers in the Echo Chamber from the University of Wisconsin Press, edited by Andrea Kita and Jesse Fivecoat. There you go. Nice ball of yarn there. Nice thread. The new book, the new book about conspiracy theory in folklore, and we've had the pleasure of talking to a couple of the authors. We got one more author for you right now, Anika Wilson. Hello, welcome to Folkwise.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to be here for the first time.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, yeah, welcome to our little digital TV studio. And everybody in chat, uh, give her a warm round of applause or whatever will show up in chat. But thank you so much for coming on with us. I really enjoyed your chapter of the book, which is called I Tell My People the Truth, COVID-19 Conspiracy Theories and the Performance of Vernacular Authority in Religious Social Networks in Malawi.
I haven't learned how to make titles short yet. I'm saying maybe 20 more years in the field and I'll have that figured out.
I
don't think that's
there's
possible for a folklorist. There wasn't a pun in there, so
I'm proud. I think there's something so classic. It is the chapter title version of just like a turkey sandwich and a pickle spear. Of naming
Always
a
what I
chapter.
want it to be.
Yeah, of naming a chapter, quote, colon, the thing it's about. When I read that, I go, okay, thank you for starting me off right. I know what I'm getting into. So, no, I think it's a strong one.
During the middle section of writing, I was on COVID myself. So,
oh my gosh.
You know, COVID brain, that's the best I could do.
Wow.
The best.
pretty good for
I'm
a
sure
COVID
that was
brain.
the case for many of us.
I just got COVID for the first time this past September. And, you know, the strain that I had is nothing that anybody else had in the early days.
Oh
And I
boy.
was like so non-functional, so I can't imagine doing anything.
I mean, I didn't have anything else to do, so.
Yeah.
And then I had like a brain fog for a month and a half after.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so if there's parts of this article or chapter that are blurry, that's what it is.
Well, hey, first question in chat for you about that. Does this count as participant observation? The fairy tellers ask. Getting COVID in the middle of writing about
I
COVID?
wasn't participating. I was more having, because this is all like WhatsApp. I wasn't actually part of these networks, right?
Mhm.
I had someone else who was part of the networks who just shared everything with me, and then I analyzed the content.
Guess what our first question is? Guess what our first question for you is?
Oh no, I'm not. Is this a game show?
Once a summer it is.
Our anniversary
Come back in
stream.
July. It's always a game show. No, but our first question is, what exactly was the nature of the collaboration and division of labor with you and your research informant you talk about in Malawi? Who did what and when?
So essentially, I have someone who I've worked with in Malawi when I do like in-person field work before. And we were just like chatting on WhatsApp about different things. I'm like, what are you hearing over there? Not thinking that I was going to be writing about this.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, this is what's happening. Is this what you're hearing? I'm like, this is what is being sent around on your WhatsApp networks. Holy beep. So I was like, I think I need to know more about this, but I don't know that I would say that it was like a wholesale collaboration. They had some conversations about like, what kind of networks these were, and do you know any other networks or blah 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 blah. So I just tried to get in, find out about a few different networks and then get the content from it. So it was more just like I got forwarded a bunch of things. And then I said, as soon as you get these, forward them to me so that I would have a sense of the timing of when this information was coming in. So that like when you look at the big picture of like what's going on in the news right now, that I could sort of match that with the stories that were then coming across in the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So it was essentially like a big WhatsApp dump.
You to go back to John's chapter, you kind of had like an analog like web crawler, like documenting all of the examples as they came by. They went straight to you.
Yeah, send me as soon as you get it. And then I had my WhatsApp set to like download every images like immediately. And then I, then took them. Some of them were videos, some of them were just like audio. I didn't realize that people were doing this. Just, there would be like long sermons sent as like audio files, and they'd be like going on and on for like 30 minutes or something like that. I couldn't like some of these things I didn't even transcribe myself. I'm like, oh, this one's in English. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my dictate function, because the reality is that like I really hated all of these conspiracy theories to my core. And like I'm a person where if there's like a vile person giving a speech, but I need to know what they're saying, I can't listen to the speech. I have to go read the text
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So because there is something very emotional that you connect with, like someone's voice and their affect. So I'm like, if there's like a really orange man and he's saying some crazy things, I'm like, I'm not gonna watch that. I'm gonna like read the highlights or read the text later. So I even had to do that with some of these conspiracy theories. I'm like, set to dictate. And then I went back and I would clean it up, because there's a difference between cleaning up a dictation and then like spending all the time in transcribing.
Yeah.
This I should also tell you, I don't have a lot of research money. So so
Many
that's
such cases.
so I think besides the forwarding, my friend, helped give me some context, and then also to, I would say, work on some translation of some of the texts that came in. A lot of them are in English, though, because some of the conspiracy theories were really sort of cross country. So, like within Africa, you have all those Anglophone countries, and so for some of the text, it made more sense that they were just actually coming in English anyhow. So
And
same with audio. Yeah.
you touched on this a little, but I think it'll help people understand the next question we asked. So you said sermons, but what were some of the other things you were being sent on WhatsApp from like Malawi and COVID discourse?
What were all of the things? I mean, one, there was a good number of sermons. There were just people who also were like alternative healers. Some of them were doctors, some of them were alternative healers, and sometimes there would be videos of people giving speeches about like, we can't trust this Western medicine, and this is all a plot to eradicate Africans, and they already did that when they were trying to do AIDS, and so there were like these like alternative healers. Just different kinds of authorities, because the article is about how people present themselves as authority, and how kind of the rhetoric worked toward creating a sense of like, I am an authority on this. So there would just be like random people commenting on it. I don't know who some of these people were. I couldn't always track down. I was paying more attention to the content. I also think that the people who were receiving it won't necessarily know who all the folks were. So like this random Black Canadian man, I don't remember, something he said made me believe he was Canadian. So I worked this all out while I was in my COVID fog, identifying different people by like clues in their sometimes in their background or whatever, different ways. But the way the way things circulate so much, if you tell the right story and you look the right way, then I think that those messages can be very powerful. So there were memes that came across came through the WhatsApp. I'm trying to think what else there was. I mean, you probably read it more recently than me.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if there were any particular things that I had in the article that you guys, when you read it, thought were, stood out.
well,
Um,
I would say we
yeah.
did, but that actually, I think you got us to a point to set us up perfectly for the next question, which is like on the subject of like of sermons and kind of the performances like that. Why was it important that these like, African COVID skeptics were using religious performative features to create that vernacular authority you talk about.
I mean, you know, in the continent of Africa, like religiosity is like very high. And then so like I don't know that that means that there's like full on trust of all religious figures. Which I question at the end. Like you don't necessarily have to trust the religious figures to like believe the message. The message can last longer than the trust of the person who said the thing. But it's very much a part of people's lives and the way that people respect authority. So Malawi is a majority Christian country, and it's very embedded in, I don't know, it's just very embedded in the way people identify themselves, right? And sort of see themselves as linked to other people. So when we look at the way that the Malawian conspiracy theories were shaping up, they weren't like Malawian conspiracy theories per se, right? There's the African context of conspiracy theories where the identification of being African was important. But then there was like in the broader religious context, people were feeling really connected to what folks were saying in other countries that there is no sort of like ethnic or national relationship to. But because of the religious context and the religious membership or identification, people were like identifying with like crazy stories coming out of the US and out of Europe. And so that's where you see like maybe John, you would say like the super conspiracies where like everything kind of got globbed together, right? That it's going to be a new world order, and we're going to be turned into monstrous non-humans by these vaccines. And you know, the old conspiracy theories that usually recur when there's like a new epidemic or a current epidemic in Africa, which is like, this is population control and Bill Gates is all about this and da 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 da. Like every single one of the hits was rolled out. But because it was because there was so much of the like the blending of the political and the conspiratorial, not even just in the African context, but like globally, what happened was that all the stupid conspiracy, should I say that? Am I allowed to say that? All of the harmful and dysfunctional conspiracies that were being, you know, spread in these other contexts, which in you know, maybe another time would not have like infected the localized or regional conspiracies, got easily added on. So the whole scale of the conspiracy was like blown to such major proportions that it's not like they're not only going to take over the world, they're going to take over your soul. It's like your whole, you are risk eternal damnation essentially if you take this vaccine. It like the scale of the importance of like the vaccine went from like the physical to like the metaphysical, like that.
Fascinating.
But very disturbing.
Yeah, well, it can be both. That's fascinating but disturbing is the back blurb on the whole book.
Oh, is that what it says?
No, Gary Allen Fine
like
said some great stuff.
Podcast. Fascinating and disturbing.
Yeah,
Whose murder are we going to investigate this week?
Kaitlyn, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was actually gonna say I was like, I'm pretty sure Gary Allen Fine gave you guys a pretty good blurb about this.
He gave a good blurb.
Did I read these blurbs?
Gary stated a substantial contribution that makes the important point that conspiracy theories are traditional and performative, a form of folk narrative. Showing these linkages gives this volume a particular power.
I'd agree.
I like this one that says something about the worrying provide the answers even to the right questions. That one's better.
The character, because there's kind of like a dramatis personae to some of these chapters, but like the character from your chapter who immediately like gave me nostalgia for like 4 years ago was Stella Emanuel. That
Oh
was
God.
that was someone
Mhm.
who
That was having me melt in my chair.
well, I mean, do you want to say a little bit more about like her
Well,
as an
you tell
example of
me
the
what
kind of
was
things you're talking
interesting
about?
about it. You tell me what like piqued you were very nostalgic for Stella
Well,
Emanuel.
because I kind of realized when I would see that on Facebook or whatever, her videos. I did kind of, I didn't have the words for it until you described it better than my brain could think about it. But it was very much, some of the stuff she was saying was very much like it's moving from physical to metaphysical. There is a metaphysical danger in getting these vaccines, which I thought was such like uh fascinating in a fascinating take, fascinating like a train crash, but still like very I couldn't, I remember not being able to look away because I'm like they're her and
Mm.
other people like her, and I think it comes across on this chapter, are really doing such like uh a, doing such performances that take it to like such another level of like
Yeah,
your
so
soul, you know what I mean? Which
yeah,
I'm not,
so
even if I didn't believe, I was still sitting there
yeah.
like, I mean, someone thinks she's cooking, you know what I mean?
I mean, if you remember that video, so this is Stella Emanuel. She's a doctor. Honestly, I even reread my own chapter, and I'm like, where was she? Tech? No, where was she? She was working in an
Facebook.
American hospital.
Yeah.
But but she had like when she was doing that press conference, there was a bunch of her colleagues, these doctors behind her. I mean, none of them who were like trained in the sciences that had anything to do with the study of epidemiology, being a clinical doctor and not a research whatever. But she was saying, "Oh, we tried these things, we tried those things." But she really like embodied that voice of someone who was like both an authority and like using her authority as a medical practitioner and also this like religious language. So if
Yeah.
you didn't have any relationship or experience with church, especially Christian churches and preaching, all of that just might have gone over your head. But like there was so much, just nail me to the cross or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
This will be the hill that I die on. I mean, and not in a war metaphor way, more in the like, you know, Calvary,
Yeah.
whatever. So it was a lot. And then if you go to her website, obviously it shows, her stethoscope laid across a Bible. Of course, the website keeps changing. So like if you go there now, it's gonna look different than when
Hmm.
I looked in 2022. So she's like, yes, I am the best of both worlds. And then, she was offering up monetizing this, offering up, here's how you can learn about these things, or here's how you can buy my cure. So I'm like, ooh, the ick is strong.
Yeah, I guess that is like, I was a good Catholic schoolboy. Theology was my favorite class, and I think that it definitely did, like if I didn't like believe it, like internalize it and believe it, I could still be like, oh, like game recognized game, that's a preacher, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. The rhetorical skills were like there. So
Yeah. Caitlin, where do we want to go next with which question we want to go to next?
Um, Maybe the third
This,
one?
this one, and that, is that you?
It can be.
Go for it.
Awesome. Um, so how do you deal with the fact that there's a kernel of truth stemming from the trauma of the global subaltern world?
I think I acknowledge it. Like,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know what to do but acknowledge it, right?
Sure.
Mhm.
Because a lot of things can be going on at one time. It's just like when someone says, like, well, I love my abuser and they were, that we did this nice thing this time. It's like, okay, that thing did happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But all of the other horrible things also happened, right? And
Mhm.
so I think in that case, it's like, if you like suppress or you try to, I'm not going to deny that bad things happen, and I like lay out some of those things
Mm-hmm.
that happen during the colonial period and then the post-colonial period with like
Yeah.
testing, like, oh, this is like a virgin population. That's why we're doing these like trials over here. And sometimes it's not even about like something being extracted or people being harmed. It's about, well, it is sometimes about extraction. Maybe not of physical, but like of knowledge as well, right? Like
Mhm.
we can like go in and like learn something. And then sometimes I'm even that person, but it doesn't necessarily like turn into something programmatic that's going to like change things. So people are like, well, you're taking from us. So that's vampiric, right? And there's a history of that, you know. What's that book? Oh yeah, this one. It's a good book.
Oh,
We're pulling a book.
Well,
Hell
this
yeah.
one, Speaking with Vampires.
Ooh.
You know this book, Andrea? Yeah. So this kind of talks about like during the colonial period. I didn't write this book, guys. Sorry.
no,
Who
Um,
did? Who
I'm
did?
dropping the link in chat right now.
Louise White.
Okay. Kaitlyn will drop that in chat. Yeah.
Where, you know, kind of like talks about how bloodsuckers and vampires, these stories that came out during the colonial period, really like
Mhm.
they were both metaphorical and literal, because, you know, people would be used to transfuse
Mm-hmm.
like some, just like white people who were there who needed blood at the hospital or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, or people would be made into zombies because they had to work all night, work all day on
Mhm.
somebody else's plantation to pay their taxes or whatever, and then they had to like go and work some more so they have subsistence for their family.
Mhm.
So, you know, why deny the reality of like terrible health campaigns? But I think the issue is, and this is not something that like I have the answer to, and this is probably something that I would like to talk to more people about in a context like Malawi, which is how do you both acknowledge the fact of all of this like harm that's come in the past and in the present,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because one of the things I talked about was the conspiracy theories about AIDS medicines,
Yeah.
where on one hand there was this I remember a year they started providing free AIDS medicine to people, and it wasn't the same kind of medicine that people were getting in Malawi that people were getting in like the US, because it was like a drug cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a one drug, one dose thing, you know, in Malawi and other more sort of resource strained contexts like that, getting through like multilateral aid and all of that. And then some people had conspiracy like, why are they got better drugs than us? And like,
Mhm.
well, and why is this free to us or such at such a reduced rate? And like, what's going on? Is this another scheme? And I'm not saying it was another scheme, but I'm saying that like, you know, that the past of like, you know, the terrible smallpox vaccination
Mm-hmm.
campaigns, and then drug trials, and then you have like uh, AIDS, and then for a long time, people weren't getting drugs to treat AIDS at all, unless you were like a pregnant woman.
Mhm.
Um, and then when the drugs came, at first there was a lot of conspiracy theories about it, but then people started taking them. So this is where I was like Andrea, I'm like, well, if people start taking them and they see that they make a difference, then that's going to change how they feel about those medicines. And I do think to some extent that's actually true. Like, you know, people do want to extend their life. And even though there's like fearful conspiracy theories, in some cases, not all cases, as we discovered, in some cases that will lead people to try the medicine that's available.
Mm-hmm.
So like the nature of trust is really strange. It's kind of like hard to get a handle on. And also, I forgot what the main part of this question was.
No, I think you answered it quite well, because we were talking about
You
like,
did.
yeah, because
Oh, okay.
the main thrust of the question was about like the kernel of truth, talking about like the trauma that people in countries like Malawi have experienced. And I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's
because
so hard because authority figures are so often already, not even just the West, but like authority figures in general.
yeah.
Like if you're in the government or whatever, like I think the way that people distrust. Every time I do a project about anything, like right now I'm doing something about like spirits in the environment, and everybody's like, the government people are the ones who are really selling all the logs
Mhm.
and chopping down the trees. It's them. I'm like, oh God.
It struck me reading the chapter that they're like, well, like they actually, like the people in these WhatsApp messages, you know, they're like, well, actually they want Africa depopulated to make room for Western capitalism. And I sat there like, well, I mean, capitalism's always looking for a disaster to cash in on. Like, yeah, but
Is that if people are already cashing in on Africa without
exactly, without
all
Satan,
of those
without a
things.
satanic vaccine.
So
Yeah.
exactly, you don't even need a satanic vaccine to be despoiled and exploited.
Words of wisdom for tonight.
God.
That sounds, you know.
I don't want somebody's gonna quote me on this later.
I'll quote you, but it'll be in the Tampa suburbs for somehow. Anyway, we've got we've got another question for you, and I hope you were still you know, you said you had like COVID brain fog, and you know there were some very serious like incendiary things that you were reading and listening to in these chats. So I understand if it wasn't always like the most chill, fun research, but were there genuinely any times that like one of these religious vernacular authorities like interpreted a sign and you were like, damn, that's a good one, where you were like actually very impressed by the conclusion?
I was impressed, but there was the one guy who was talking about DNA. And
Yes.
he's like,
Oh, talk about it. This was talk about this. I know exactly what you're talking
he's
about.
He's like the deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, let me break down what all of that means. And he's like, deoxy now. That's from, I think he said the Latin, and that means God. Ribos, that's from, that's Semitic, and that means teacher, rabbi. He said, so there you see that that's the God is a teacher, and he's at the center of life, DNA. And then it like goes on, and then it's like, it was crazy. It's like that. And then you want to then he goes on, he talks about like the you know, I don't know. I can't even remember it all.
No,
it's like the brain fog goes into the future. But then he goes on and talks about like, you know, like transcriptionase and all of this stuff, you know. But now you want to change the messenger of God, and replace it with a fake vaccine thing. And that, what is that going to do? That's going to take God out of you when God was at the center of everything. I don't know what voice this is I'm putting on right now.
I love it.
I love it too.
So he's like, and there you go. I was like, oh God. I was like exhausted, but I was like, well, that was amazing and like totally insane.
Yeah, it was exhausting at the same time. I was hooked on every sentence. I was like, okay, now tell me
numerology like that other guy. Like,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, the numbers. I'm like, no, but like this guy.
Oh yeah, everyone's uncle.
Something.
Everyone's uncle can biblical math like a passage, you know. But
He was like mixing languages and everything.
I'm glad you said that one, because that one was genuinely impressive. Like we're going to Latin and Aramaic. Yeah.
The whole quote in there, because if I try to paraphrase this, no one's gonna understand the like wizardry of his like rhetoric. So yeah,
that could have been hey, that could have been like at least part of the title, if not like the first footnote. Like if I summarized any of these notations or any of these quotes, you wouldn't believe me.
Oh, I summarized a lot, but I left the best ones intact.
Yeah.
No, the downside of this article is that like I published this stuff and like now it's available for more people to read in a different way. But what are you gonna do? It's already circulating on these social media, so less people are gonna read our academic book. No, I mean, no, maybe now after watching this they will.
Oh,
but, you know,
thank you. Please buy the book, preferably at full price, to support our wonderful contributors to
And
this
not
author
from
roundtable.
Amazon.
Not from Amazon.
Not from Amazon.
If you want to give us a
please.
Twitch Prime sub right now, do that. But don't give Jeff Bezos your money for the book.
Yeah, purchase directly from the publisher.
Yeah, and leave a like on this video. Hey, right there.
Hey.
I only have a PDF. I don't have a nice paperback like that. Dang.
Yeah.
I did write some paper. I printed it too.
Oh.
You're gonna write in my book.
Anika.
I'm a library person because I write in mine.
Oh yeah. Do you have Anika? Do you have anything else to sum up your contribution to this wonderful book, or to put any other notes you want to, or anecdotes you want to share about your research, or any more about telling the truth?
I mean, do I have more to say about telling the truth? We just need to, I mean, I think what Andrea had to say, like, we need to not be afraid of saying, like, I studied this and people said that, but that was wrong. That wasn't true. I mean, it's a thing that people believe, but it doesn't make it true. It makes it powerful, but it doesn't make it true.
Yes.
And I think that's important to know. I think obviously that's what this whole project is about. I think the other big thing to me in this project was seeing like how important it was for people to feel they identified with someone. And I think that's really, if you talk about the like emotional core of how people get swept up into things, it's not just ideas, it's more a sense, I can't say more, I haven't like done a quantitative study of it. But I would say it's as much about ideas as it is about a sense of feeling of belonging and community. And this is not like a new type of insight or anything like that, but it's like sometimes one I think that we underrate.
Yeah.
So I just, I think that's a lot of it. And the political scientists say this as well, right? People don't necessarily vote because they read your platform and they like understand all the finer points of the policy that you're going to have. They like feel something about like a kinship with you. And that was so much of also how I think authority came across was an appeal for people to think that those who are telling these stories are, akin to the, we're akin to the audience who's receiving it.
Yes.
And so that's why I use that title, like I tell my people the truth, which is a particular person who's like a video I saw kind of like exhorting people like to not take vaccines and not believe in COVID-19. And you can trust me because I'm one of you.
Yeah.
And I won't lie to you. I'm going to tell my people the truth. But the reality is that, it's a dangerous story. So I think that's about it.
That's it. I think that's a good note to end that on. Ladders in the chat for Anika. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Thank you for coming on to our Twitch stream. I know it is you're new to these parts, but we're very grateful to have you.
Yeah. Also, Fairy Teller says they love the voices as well.
Oh yeah. Great. Chat loves the voices, don't worry. Oh, thank you for the bits.